Hey, buddy, hit that subscribe. Just a sec for you, but it means the world to me. The phone rang at 6:47 a.m. Way too early for good news. I was already awake, half dead on my second mug of coffee, watching snow drift past the kitchen window like the world was moving in slow motion. Toronto mornings can feel lonely like that. When I saw my brother Glenn's name flash on the screen, my stomach tightened. We hadn't spoken in almost a month, not since that stiff, awkward visit to Mom's care facility, where everything felt off but nobody said out loud. "Douglas," Glenn said, his voice wrapped in this fake calm that instantly set off alarm bells in my head. "I've got some bad news." I leaned against the counter. "What is it?" "Mom passed away last night. Peacefully. In her sleep." The words didn't land right away. I just stared at my coffee, like it might explain what he just said. "What?" "That's not possible. I was supposed to visit her today." "The funeral's Friday," he cut in, suddenly sounding like he was reading from a checklist. "I've already handled everything." Then came the real punch. "Oh, and just so we're clear, Mom's will leave everything to me. The house, the cottage, the investments, all of it. Don't bother fighting it." And then, click, he hung up. I stood there frozen, phone still in my hand, snow piling up outside, while my brain scrambled to catch up. My mother was supposedly dead, and Glenn's top priority was making sure I knew I wasn't getting a dime. No condolences, no sympathy, just legal threats. That wasn't grief. That was something uglier. Let me rewind a bit. My name's Douglas Harrison. I'm 64, retired civil engineer, spent 4 decades building roads and bridges across Ontario. My wife, Catherine, passed 3 years ago after a brutal fight with cancer. Losing her wrecked me. We had one daughter, Emma, now 28, living out west and working as a marine biologist. After Catherine died, my mom became my anchor. She was the reason I kept going. Glenn, my younger brother by 4 years, took a different path. Real estate. Big promises, bigger risks. On the surface, he looked successful. Nice car, good suit, perfect smile. But beneath that, cracks. Deals that fell apart. Debt whispers at family dinners. His wife working double shifts to keep things afloat. Mom noticed, even if she never said much. My mother, Helen Harrison, was sharp her whole life. Former schoolteacher. Scrabble assassin. The kind of woman who could quote poetry from memory and still roast you with a look. Until 9 months ago, she lived on her own just fine. Then Glenn stepped in, said she needed help, suggested he take power of attorney just in case. Mom hesitated, but Glenn knew how to push the right buttons. That's when things went sideways. Suddenly, Mom was diagnosed with severe dementia, practically overnight. Glenn moved her into a nursing home, claiming it was for her safety. When I visited, I barely recognized her. She stared to me like I was a stranger. Slurred words, blank expressions. It didn't add up, but every time I questioned it, doctor shrugged and said, "It happens fast at her age." Now, standing in my kitchen with Glenn's words echoing in my head, it finally clicked. This wasn't coincidence. This was a setup. I called the nursing home immediately. "I'm calling about my mother, Helen Harrison. I was told she passed away last night." There was a pause, then confusion. "Sir, she's alive. She's eating breakfast right now." My heart slammed into my ribs. I hung up, hands shaking, and called my daughter. "Emma," I said, barely keeping together, "your uncle says Grandma's dead." "She's not. Something's really wrong." And right then, I realized this wasn't just family drama anymore. This was a crime in motion. If Glenn was lying about Mom being dead, what else had he already done? And why was he in such a rush to bury her while she was still breathing? After I hung up with Emma, I didn't sit around spiraling. I'd spent 40 years solving problems for a living, and this one smelled bad from every angle. If Glenn was bold enough to fake Mom's death, that meant he'd already crossed lines most people wouldn't even think about. And when someone moves like that, the trail usually starts with money. First call I made was to Robert Chun, a lawyer I'd worked with years back on a contract dispute. Sharp guy. No nonsense. When I laid out the situation, He didn't interrupt once, just listened. When I finished, he exhaled slowly. Douglas, this isn't just family drama. If what you're saying is true, this is elder abuse fraud and possibly worse. But here's the thing, you need proof. Rock solid proof. So, where do we start? I asked. With documentation, financials, medical records, and witnesses who aren't related by blood. Then he paused. You should also assume your brother knows how to cover his tracks. That didn't make me feel better, but it felt real. After we hung up, I made the second call to a private investigator named Sarah Mitchell. A friend of a friend had recommended her. Former police. No patience for liars. She showed up at my house that afternoon, coat still dusted with snow, eyes already scanning the room like she was clocking exits. Tell me exactly when your brother got power of attorney, she said, flipping open a notebook. 9 months ago, I replied, right before Mom supposedly lost her mind. Sarah nodded slowly. And before that, she was volunteering, playing cards, sharp as ever. That did it. Sarah leaned back. Yeah, I've seen this play before. Give me 48 hours. I'll tell you what your brother's been up to. That night, I drove to the nursing home unannounced. Something told me not to call ahead. Mom was sitting by the window like always, but tonight, something felt different. Her eyes followed me when I entered. Not blank, not lost, just quiet. Mom, I said softly, it's me. She turned her head. For half a second. Just a flash. I swear she knew me. Then a nurse walked in, checking vitals. And whatever that moment was, it vanished. Or maybe I imagined it. I drove home frustrated, replaying that look over and over. The next morning, Sarah called. Sit down, she said. That's never good news. I sat at the kitchen table, coffee untouched. What did you find? Your brother's been draining your mother's accounts. About $280,000 over the last 8 months. Slow transfers at first, then bigger chunks. He also sold her cottage through a numbered company. I'm still tracing it, but I bet good money he owns it. My stomach dropped. There's more, Sarah continued. He's been using her credit cards, too. And that doctor who diagnosed the dementia? Old college buddy of your brother. Longtime friend. I felt sick, so the dementia could be drug-induced, over-medication, sedatives, antipsychotics, enough to make a healthy person look gone. She didn't sugarcoat it. That's dangerous territory. That afternoon, I went back to the nursing home, this time ready to record anything. But when I reached Mom's room, it was empty. Where's my mother? I asked the nurse. Oh, your brother took her out? She said casually. Said she needed fresh air. My blood ran cold. I sprinted to the parking lot. Glenn's black Mercedes was gone. I called him. Straight to voicemail. Again, nothing. For 3 hours, I paced, called, cursed. Imagine every worst-case scenario my brain could cook up. When they finally came back, Mom looked exhausted, pale, confused. Glenn saw me standing there and smirked like I was an inconvenience. You told me she was dead. I snapped. He laughed. Actually laughed. Yeah, that miscommunication. Dementia episodes can be messy. Where did you take her? Drive. Relax. His tone hardened. I'm her pill aide, Douglas. Back off. Then he brushed past me like I didn't exist. I stood there shaking with anger when my phone buzzed. A known number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Douglas. A whisper said, Yes. It's me. My heart stopped. Who is this? Your mother? The line went dead. If Mom could barely speak. Who just called me? And how could she sound more aware on the phone than she had in months? I didn't drive home after that call. I couldn't. I just sat in my car across the street from the nursing home, engine off, watching the building like it might blink first. Snow kept falling, soft and quiet, like the world didn't care that my reality had just flipped upside down. There was no way Mom could have called me. According to everyone, she barely knew her own name. And yet that voice, weak but clear, was hers. No doubt about it. The same tone she used when she wanted you to listen and not argue. I waited until after 10. Glenn's Mercedes was gone, the lot nearly empty. Night shift, skeleton crew. I used my entry code and moved fast, heart hammering like I was doing something illegal, even though I wasn't. When I pushed open Mom's door, she was sitting up in bed. The lights were low. She turned her head slowly toward me. "Close the door," she said. Not mumbled, not confused. Clear as day. My legs almost gave out. I shut it, locked it, and just stood there staring. Her eyes were sharp, focused, alive in a way I hadn't seen in months. "Mom," I whispered. She smiled, not weak, not lost. The same smile she used when she caught Glenn and me sneaking food as kids. "Sit down, Douglas. We don't have much time." I sat like my body was on autopilot. "Are you okay? What the hell is going on?" She took my hand. Her grip was firm, steady, no tremor. "I'm fine. I've been fine the whole time." I felt dizzy. "But the dementia, you didn't recognize me." "I did," she said quietly. "Every time." The room tilted. "Then why?" "Because I needed to know something," she cut in gently. "I needed to know who would show up when I had nothing to give back." That's when it hit me. The visits, the act, the blank stares. "You were pretending," I said. She nodded. "When Glenn suggested power of attorney, I saw an opportunity. I agreed, but I also hired my own lawyer. One Glenn doesn't know exists." My chest tightened. "Mom." "I moved most of my assets into an irrevocable trust before Glenn touched anything. What he's been stealing. That was bait." I didn't know whether to cry or yell. "You let him rob you." "I let him expose himself," she said calmly. "And you, Douglas, you passed without knowing there was a test." Tears slid down my face. "I came because you're my mother." "I know," she said softly. "That's why this hurts so much." Then her expression darkened. "Glenn's getting desperate. Today, he told me I was going to pass peacefully soon. He tried to make me sign more papers. He's running out of time." My stomach dropped. "We need the cops." "They're already involved," she said. "Quietly. We're setting a trap." Over the next 2 days, everything moved fast. Hidden cameras, audio recorders, police coordination, trusted staff only. Mom went back to playing confused whenever Glenn showed up, and he did twice. The second time, he brought a syringe. I watched the footage later. He told her it was medication. It wasn't. Enough sedatives to shut her down permanently. She pretended to take it. He smiled. "Tomorrow," he said, "everything ends." Friday came. The funeral home was packed. Flowers everywhere. A big smiling photo of Mom from years ago. Glenn had even written an obituary. I sat in the front row next to my daughter, who'd flown in that morning. Glenn looked calm, confident. At exactly 2 p.m., he stood to speak. And that's when I stood up. "Where's Mom's body, Glenn?" Silence. Panic flashed across his face. And then the doors opened. Everyone thought they were attending a funeral, but they were about to witness a resurrection. The second those doors opened, the room went dead quiet, like someone hit mute on 100 people at once. Every head turned. Every breath stalled. There she was, my mother, alive, walking slowly with a walker, but upright, composed, eyes sharp enough to cut glass. 2 uniformed officers followed just a step behind her. For a split second, nobody moved. Then the gas started. Someone screamed. A cousin dropped into a chair like their knees gave out. Glenn looked like he'd just seen a ghost, because in his mind he had. Mom moved down the aisle at her own pace. No rush, no drama. When she reached Glenn, she stopped and looked him dead in the eye. "Hello, son," she said clearly. "I'm not dead, but your inheritance is." The sound Glenn made wasn't even a word. His mouth open and closed like his brain couldn't decide what lie to grab first. This is a mistake," he stammered. "She's confused. She's sick." Mom didn't blink. "I've been recording you for 8 months, Glenn. Every threat, every stolen dollar, Every time you try to drug me into silence. She turned toward the crowd, her voice steady. I'm sorry you all had to find out like this, but I needed witnesses. One of the officers stepped forward. Glenn Harrison, you're under arrest for elder abuse, fraud, theft, and attempted probate fraud. That's when Glenn snapped. He tried to bolt, actually tried to run. He made it maybe 3 steps before he was tackled and cuffed in front of everyone he'd lied to. His kids started crying. His wife just stood there, frozen, like her whole life had shattered in real time. As they dragged him away, he screamed, I needed that money. Mom watched him go, tears rolling down her face, but her voice never shook. You needed honesty. You chose greed. The room was chaos. People crying, whispering, staring at Mom like she'd risen from the dead. She just stood there, calm in the storm. Later, once the dust settled, the truth came out fast. Video evidence, bank records, audio files. Even the doctor flipped when faced with charges. Glenn pled guilty. 5 years. License gone. Reputation burned to ash. His fake funeral became his public downfall. That night, after everything, Mom sat with me quietly. If he'd just asked, she said softly, I would have helped him. I nodded. He didn't want help. He wanted control. She squeezed my hand. And you wanted nothing except me alive. The lie was buried, but the fallout was just beginning, because betrayal doesn't end with handcuffs. The courtroom didn't feel dramatic. No music, no speeches, just cold benches, fluorescent lights, and the sound of a man running out of excuses. Glenn tried to fight it at first, claimed Mom was confused, claimed he was just helping. But lies don't hold up when they're stacked against bank records, video footage, audio recordings, and a doctor who subtly decided to tell the truth once immunity was on the table. The judge didn't hesitate. 5 years in prison, restitution, massive fines, real estate license revoked permanently. Just like that, the man who thought he was the smartest person in the room lost everything that mattered. His wife filed for divorce within weeks. Full custody of the kids. No contact order until the dust settled. Watching those kids suffer hurt more than anything else. They loved their grandmother. They didn't deserve to pay for their father's greed. Emma and I stayed close to them. School events, birthdays. Someone had to show them what stability looked like. Someone had to prove that blood doesn't excuse betrayal, but also doesn't mean abandonment. The doctor lost his license too. Turns out the medical board doesn't play when you drug an elderly woman for convenience. He tried to say he was pressured. The board said pressure isn't prescription. As for Mom, she was done pretending. Done with big houses and fake smiles. She sold the old place and moved into a small condo near me. Clothes enough that we could have dinner together twice a week without it feeling forced. She started volunteering again, this time with an elder abuse prevention group. Standing in front of rooms full of seniors, she told her story straight. No sugarcoating, no drama, just facts, warning signs, hard truths. We used part of the recovered money to start a legal assistance fund in her name, helping people who didn't have sons like me or daughters like Emma to fight back. One evening, about a year later, we sat on my porch watching snow fall again. Funny how life loops like that. Do you regret it? I asked. She thought for a long time. I regret that I had to test my own child, but I don't regret learning the truth. She looked at me. You showed up when I was worth nothing. That told me everything. I swallowed hard. You taught me that. She smiled. Then I did something right. The damage was done, but the lesson wasn't finished, because the final truth wasn't about money at all. Life didn't magically snap back to normal after the trial. It rarely does. Things just settled into a new shape. Quieter, more honest, less pretending. Mom adjusted to her new place fast. Smaller condo, fewer responsibilities, zero stress. She liked being close. Liked knowing she wasn't alone. We built a routine. Dinners twice a week. Sunday calls with Emma, the occasional bad movie night, where we both pretended the plot made sense. She never spoke about Glenn unless someone asked. And even then, she didn't rage. She didn't curse his name. She just spoke the truth and let it sit there. Heavy, unavoidable. One night, while we were cleaning up after dinner, she said something that stuck with me. "You know what the saddest part is, Douglas?" I shook my head. If Glenn had just been honest, if he'd said he was drowning, I would have helped him. Not with everything, not without boundaries. But I would have helped. That hit harder than anger ever could, because greed wasn't the real villain. Fear was. Fear of failure, fear of asking, fear of looking weak. Instead, he chose deception. And deception always sends a bill later. Emma visited whenever she could. She and Mom had this quiet understanding, like two people who'd both seen enough of life to skip the small talk. They'd sit together, drinking tea, watching the ocean on Emma's tablet. Planning trips Mom said she was too old for, but secretly wanted to take anyway. The Elder Protection Fund grew faster than we expected. Calls came in weekly. People who felt trapped, scared, invisible. Mom listened to every story like it mattered, because to her it did. One evening, as we sat watching another snowfall roll in, I asked her, "Do you ever wish you hadn't gone that far?" The fake dementia, the funeral. She smiled. "I wish the world didn't make it necessary. But I don't regret protecting myself." She looked at me then, really looked at me. Family isn't blood. Blood is biology. Family is choice. That was it. That was a lesson. Glenn shared our DNA, but he stopped being family the moment he decided my mother was just an asset, the moment he treated her like she was already gone. I didn't inherit a house, or a cottage, or an investment portfolio. I inherited time, more dinners, more conversations, more moments where my mother laughed like she used to, sharp and full of life. I inherited the knowledge that when it counted, I showed up, and that's worth more than anything Glenn ever tried to steal. Because at the end of the day, real love doesn't ask what you'll get. It asks who you'll protect when there's nothing to gain.